There's not much controversial unless those are a couple of Oak Park people over there.
Here we go. Here we go.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to call tonight's meeting to order and welcome to the November 2nd Muscatine City Council meeting. Fran, with your sad voice, will you please do the roll call?
They're gonna have Greg do it.
That'll work.
Councilmember Raywalt,
Present.
Councilmember Fitzgerald,
Present.
Councilmember Netfig,
Present.
Councilmember Spread, Councilmember Harvey,
Present.
Councilmember Bynum, and Councilmember Salcedo.
Present.
5 present, 2 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Will you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to City Council about something that's not already on tonight's agenda? Please take the podium. State your name and address.
How much you want to bet? I said, how much you want to bet?
My name is Max Kaufman. I live at 1609 Foster Street, Muscatine, Iowa. This past week, or this week, earlier in the week, I was out soliciting or trying to help people fill out forms for acquiring absentee ballots. When I got to the Towers Apartments, I ran into a situation that really surprised me. I ran into the people there were very, I hate to use the word frightened, but I don't know of a better word to use. Apparently the police had raided their establishment, their home there, a few days ago or a week ago or some time ago. They had raided their home there, and there was a lady there who was doing exactly the same thing that I was doing, trying to solicit absentee ballot registration forms. And the police, our police here in Muscatine, arrested the lady and confiscated all of her forms, both blank and filled out. Took her forms and her herself into custody and took her away. This echoes of a police state, something that I have been in a situation that I don't even want to talk about. This is not the country that I live in. Certainly not the city that I thought I lived in. And I don't understand what could have happened, but these people are very uncomfortable. They were worried about talking with me. I got a few people to be willing to fill out these absentee ballot forms to vote in this city election, but only a few, and they were questioning whether or not it was going to be raided again. I don't understand this. I don't understand where our police got off raiding this place, confiscating election ballots. I don't understand this. So I'd like to talk to each one of our council members.
Max, did you talk to the owners, or did you talk to the management?
I talked to the management when I first went in there, asked permission to, could I come in? She routed me to another lady.
Okay.
That lady escorted me into their commons room and said, have at it. So I'd like to ask Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir.
How how, as a councilman, how would you address this, or how will you address this?
So who did you speak with management first? I want to make sure that we're confirming what your story is, because.
I don't know the young lady's name. She was a young lady, 25-ish, blonde, small build.
She's the manager for the building.
Yes, she was in the office there.
So we're not going to be able to address everything here. I mean, give us the
Okay,
information
but I'm
and
gonna
then,
ask you how you would, I'm gonna let you off the hook for a minute.
and that's
put it
fine,
right to
Max,
you.
because we have a long meeting and we're getting your information. There's probably other people that may want to be able to speak, but we're not going to be able to address this. We already know of more non-trespassing orders that have been in that building for people that are trying to solicit. There's also a point where you can get into where you're saying, hey, we're trying to suppress people to say, hey, you need to vote one way or another, and there's obviously
that was not the issue.
Okay, so again, we're not going to be able to address that here in this meeting today. So what we're trying to do is just try to get the information, we'll provide it to us, and then we can try to follow up on it. We're not going to be able to answer your questions right away, and we're not going to
These people are
allow.
afraid- These people are like they're living in a police
Okay,
state.
so then if that's the case, then we will be able to try to talk to them, not just have one person come over and represent all of them. Because are you representing the towers, or is the management representing the towers? Because you're obviously
I
coming
don't
up here
think-
saying that.
I don't think the management is representing the towers,
So-
because the people in the towers are afraid of management as well as afraid of our police.
Okay, well, that's one voice that you're telling us. Let
That's
them,
my read.
okay, so then let us follow up on that before
Will
we
you
can make that.
follow up on it?
I am explaining to you, yes, okay, we will follow up with that, and we'll have that manager try to give us a statement of some sort. So we're not gonna try to make this into a long,
Will you make it public?
well, that's up to them. Obviously, we have the rights for privacy as well. I can also explain to you that this is not something we're gonna be able to address in this council. Okay, and I'm not gonna allow you to come in here and try to ask every single one of us and try to sit here and say that we're gonna answer the questions. That's not what this council chambers are for.
Second question. My friend is leery of coming here and standing up.
Okay,
I'm not. The leaf truck that comes around. He says, why in the world is the leaf truck coming around now? Why don't we give it time for the leaves to drop? And then bring it around, and then he comes around a little bit later. I don't know, but I promised he might ask the question.
okay.
I'm done.
Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Anyone else? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to number 5 on tonight's agenda, the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes items 6A, items 8A through E, items 12A through C, and tonight's bills totaling $5,472,652.79.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with all ayes. Next, we have a public hearing that concerns the proposed vacation of a utility easement on Diana Queen Drive. RBW Enterprises LLC is requesting an amendment to their development plan to change the land use on approximately 2.15 acres located on the west side of Diana Queen Drive, Lot 6 through Lot 16 of the Riverbend addition from single-family homes to attached single-family homes, or rather duplexes. The developer is requesting vacation of the utility easement between lots 9, 10, and 11 to facilitate construction by the end of this year. Prior to any formal action by City Council, a public hearing is required. Now is the time for the public to comment. Do I have a motion to close the
Move to
public
close.
hearing? Second?
Second.
Alan, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries with all ayes. 11A, Presented for City Council's consideration is the final reading of an ordinance rezoning real estate in the city of Muscatine from R3 residential to RL large-scale residential for the proposed Oak Park Development Project in the city of Muscatine. The developer is requesting the rezoning of approximately 10 acres of real estate located at the corner of Blaine Street and Izard Avenue from single-family residential to RL large-scale residential development. Is there a motion to approve the final reading of the ordinance as submitted and to direct for its publication as required by law?
So moved.
Scott, second.
Second.
Alan, any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Raywalt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Natvig?
Aye.
The ordinance is adopted with all ayes. 11B. Next, we have the second reading of an ordinance authorizing changes and/or omissions in the city code sections Title 6, Chapter 8, Title 13, Chapter 3, Title 15, Chapter 8. Is there a motion to adopt the second reading of the ordinance as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, who did the second?
Santos. Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Natvig?
Aye.
Raywalt? And Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Motion is approved with all ayes. 11C. Next, we have a resolution approving vacation of utility easement at lots 9 and 10 and 11 of the Riverbend 5th Edition, Diana Queen Drive. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Raywalt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Natvig?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11D. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving obligation of funds from the Urban Renewal Tax Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payment of annual appropriation tax increment rebate obligations coming due in the next succeeding year for Wallview Development Project Number 1. The fiscal year 18-19 rebate will be the fourth annual rebate under this company's development agreement. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Quick question, just as a reminder, and I'll combine two questions. Brief one, two sentence, what is Wallview number 1 and number 2?
Those are the warehouses that are not owned by Kent Corporation, but that contract with Kent Corporation that were
Down
done.
in Industrial Park?
No, if you, just prior to Curry's Transportation, you'll see a large sign out there.
Yep.
Those are the two warehouses. It was 500,000 square foot, I believe, a 300 and some thousand square foot warehouse facility on the south end.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, Councilman Saucedo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Natvig?
Aye.
Raywalt?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11E. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving obligation of funds from the Urban Renewal Tax Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payment of annual appropriation tax increment rebate obligations coming due in the next succeeding year for H.J. Heinz Company, L.P. The fiscal year 18-19 rebate will be the third annual rebate under this company's development agreement. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Raywalt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Raywalt?
He already voted.
I'm sorry. Natvig?
Aye.
Can't.
Harvey?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11F. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving obligation of funds from the Urban Renewal Tax Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payment of annual appropriation tax increment rebate obligations coming due in the next succeeding year for Wallview Development Project Number 2. The fiscal year 18-19 rebate will be the second annual rebate under this company's development agreement. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Raywalt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Natbig?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
And Harvey.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11G. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving obligation of funds from the Urban Renewal Tax Revenue Fund for appropriation to the payment of annual appropriation tax increment rebate obligations coming due in the next succeeding year for Union Tank Car Company. The fiscal year 18-19 rebate will be the second annual rebate under this company's development agreement. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Councilman Raywalt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Natbig?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Saucedo? The resolution is adopted with all ayes. Next, we have 4 resolutions for internal advances. Number 1 is authorizing internal advance of funds for 17-18 Urban Renewal Administration and Professional Support Program. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Raywalt, how do you vote?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Natbig?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. The second one, resolution authorizing the internal advance of funds and economic development grant for Greater Muscatine Chamber of Commerce and Industry Support Program. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Natbig?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Raywalt.
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. The third one, we have a resolution authorizing the internal advance of funds for Small Business Forgivable Loan Program. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question on that. We've had good success with that program. Is there any way we can evaluate in the next goals session to maybe increase that amount?
Certainly take a look at it in goals and budget as well, absolutely.
I know that we're, I think, not to exceed 100,000, but I think we've had good success with the small businesses growing, and it's something that I'm interested to see if we can.
Certainly.
Look at it in
City
the
Council
future.
would simply need to not only, of course, budget for, but also amend the urban renewal plan, which currently calls for 100,000 annually. We did that, I believe, last year, and we'll be bringing forward an urban renewal plan amendment. Could bring that forward at the same time.
Great, thank you.
Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Raywalt?
Aye.
Natbig?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. The last one, we have a resolution authorizing an internal advance of funds for a housing demand study. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Natbig, how do you vote?
Aye.
Raywalt?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Harvey?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11I. Presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution awarding the contract for the Musser Public Library and HNI Community Center project. 9 bids were received, with the low apparent bidder being Sheets General Construction of Maquoketa, Iowa, in the amount of $651,900. Staff is requesting that City Council take action to accept the bid and award the contract at this time. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Didn't we have something where there was a percentage if it was local?
That applies for
Purchases.
purchases, but equipment purchases, excuse me, and it's
That wouldn't apply
Not,
for
not
this?
in this case.
Okay.
That is something that we could talk about or in goal session also.
I saw one of those contractors that was local and sure was within 5%, but.
Glenn Stelzner's here tonight if you have any questions regarding the contract. I
But if
believe
there's a
he's-
state requirement that it has to go the lowest,
Right,
I'm not gonna try to create any.
right. But if you have any questions on the bid, Glenn Stelzner is here tonight, who's evaluated the bid, talked to the contractor. I believe this is also the same low bidder for the recent library project at MCC as well. Is that correct? Yes. So,
Okay. No, I'm satisfied with that. I just had a question about that. Thank you.
Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Natvig?
Aye.
And Raywalt?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11J, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving the allocation of project-based vouchers. 2 requests for proposals were sent out. One was for Oak Park LLC and the other for the Muscatine Center for Social Action's proposed acquisition and rehabilitation project on 4th Street. Staff is requesting that City Council award 12 project-based vouchers. It has been printed as 8, but it's actually 12 project-based vouchers to Oak Park LLC with the condition that should the project fail to receive state funding, the awarded allocations will be canceled and 6 project-based vouchers then will be granted to MCSA for the proposed 4th Street rehabilitation project. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Scott?
Second.
Bill? Any discussion?
Your Honor, Jody's here tonight. Just to clarify the issue of 8 versus 12 and what 12 triggers and why the issue came up.
And I have a question for you also. What's MCSA gonna do with 6 vouchers?
Mayor, Council, Jody Royal Goodwin, Housing Administrator. So first, MCSA will use 6 vouchers at a property on 4th Street that is currently being rehabilitated to house persons who are literally or near homeless.
Okay.
And the Oak Park LLC proposal, the difference between 8 and 12 is at 9 units, it triggers Davis-Bacon compliance requirements. So we are proposing 8 because staff just doesn't have, it's very time consuming and detailed and nerve-wracking. So we have made an arrangement with the developer to fund a contract to perform that monitoring on behalf of the city, and so 12 is fine.
Okay.
And when did we find out that the developer was gonna know? And I don't know if you know this, Jody, but when would the developer know if the state's approved it or not?
Typically, the awards are made in March. The tax credit allocation is made in March.
Perfect. You do know.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
Hearing no other discussion, Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Raywalt?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
And Natvig. The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11K, presented for City Council's consideration is a resolution approving a utility easement agreement between the city and MLC Land Company LLC for the hotel project. The city is being asked to grant an easement to the hotel for a small portion of the sidewalk area on 2nd Street to assist in the building of a parking ramp. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Will those pilings be unused but just remaining there?
Correct. I believe the original plans called for them to be removed.
Okay, so they won't be used at all, they're just gonna be?
They won't be used to be kept below grade and so that the concrete can be poured over them.
Thank you.
The attached document said that there would be some diagrams, but they weren't attached. Just the narrative was. Is there a way for us to see a map of what area we're actually talking about and how much? I actually had a citizen call me wondering about the diagrams.
But I didn't attach that agreement to the I could go down and get that.
You just mentioned how and where they're located.
Yeah, there is a map it's in the final document. We didn't get it in time to post it and all of that, but there is the legal description's in there now. That's Exhibit A, and Exhibit B is where the map would be. And we do have that map.
I will attach that so that if people are interested in seeing it, it will be available tomorrow.
So which end of the parking ramp is the entrance? Or are there two?
There's two. There's one from the alleyway and there's one from Second Street.
Okay, but the one on Second Street, which end, if you're facing the parking ramp, is it on the right-hand side or left-hand side?
I believe there's two, one going in and one coming out, but it's,
Okay. Well, that's what it looked like when I drove by it the other day.
I believe that's the case.
Okay.
And
Entrances and exits?
that map does show where each one of those pylons are, and what happens is it's too expensive and difficult to pull them back out now.
Piling.
It was initially supposed to be temporary.
So they thought they would be able to take them out later and now they
Back
can't?
when they first did their site plan review, that was the plan. And that was in February, I believe. And the plan was that those pylons are supposed to be going in only temporary to hold the wall while they were pouring new concrete and stuff. But then they realized they had to go another 5 feet, and that makes it very difficult to pull those out now. So they're going to cut them down 5 feet below surface, and when they do their ramps and landscaping over the top and such like that, that will be covered. But we'll know where they are with that map.
You kind of realize if they have to pile drive them in, they're not going to pull them out very easy, you know.
They didn't know that to begin with.
Well, those were poured.
Yeah, we thought the same thing. You know, why wouldn't they have known that? But in this case, it's clearly 2 feet on the city side, so we had to come up with this easement concept.
Shouldn't they be referred to as pilings instead of pylons?
Hey, that was me. I made that mistake.
Okay.
What is a pylon now? that I think of it?
That's what you
Totally different.
circle around.
Thank you, Dave. Councilman Harvey, how do you vote?
Aye.
Saucedo?
Aye.
Fitzgerald?
Aye.
Natvig?
Aye.
And Raywalt?
Aye.
The resolution is adopted with all ayes. 11L. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve the issuance of a purchase order for refuse carts. The supply of 95-gallon carts has been exhausted, and it is time to reorder. A minimum of 112 units is necessary for a production run. Staff is requesting that City Council authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Rayrig, am I saying that right? Pacific Company, in the amount of $5,404, which includes shipping. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion?
About how long do you think the 112 will last? Years? Years? Okay. I assume you have a place you can store them then. Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Christie. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The request is approved with all ayes. 11M. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a project management agreement with HNI for storm water improvements. HNI has requested assistance from the city to help alleviate flooding concerns at their technical services building located at 912 East 5th Street. This arrangement should allow construction to be completed before the spring of 18. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
So I have a few questions.
And just as an FYI, I was sent a couple of photos today from HNI and passed those around just to give you an idea of what the issue is.
So with the current CSO projects that we're having and the contractors that we're utilizing, do you feel that this is something that you're not gonna have any challenges with the timelines that this is being brought to us?
No. No, I think the CSO project should be winding down end of this month, and this one would start soon after or at the same time. I think he's able to do both.
And so when we decide we want to start moving forward on the next phase of the riverfront and eventually working to Second Street, will we be potentially creating more challenges and traffic issues if we were to take down Second? Because if we take down Fifth, how will we manage that if we're
Well, the reason we're doing
not
this
gonna,
now.
we're not gonna conflict in timing on those
No,
two
that's why
projects?
that's why we want to do this Fifth Street now, is to get it done before it becomes part of a detour, mostly a detour for H&I, but for the Second Street construction. So the timing is important, which is why H&I is wanting to manage the project, because they can cut through and shorten the time frame to get contractors and contracts and everything else signed and done. So it would avoid that conflict.
Is this a couple of weeks or a couple of months?
To do the work?
Yeah.
In the wintertime, I would say maybe a month, 2 months. I hate to promise time, so I'm not sure, but it can be done over the wintertime.
Will that close the intersection completely?
It will close, no, not at Fifth and Cypress, it should not. It would close Fifth and Poplar, and it would close Sixth Street at Cypress, but for a short time. And right now we have ability to get around Fifth and Poplar, so it shouldn't be too difficult.
So I'm a little confused in regards to the timing of this, because you mentioned the winter of wanting to do this work, but then it says in the background that the larger pipe will allow the drainage, and this will not be installed until the spring or the summer of 2018. So are we gonna do like phases of excavation, but then we're not gonna do the full installation and the bypass into the systems? Or how are we gonna do that with the sewer systems and not potentially freezing or creating more
Right.
stuff?
The bypass part, the 48-inch pipe, is going to be part of the Mississippi Drive project between Second and Street, at Second Street going towards the bridge. So that work will be completed next spring when the contractor gets to that point. So that will allow relief from the system to the north on Fifth Street. This piece here that we're going to do at Fifth and Cypress, Fifth and Poplar, Sixth and Cypress, reroutes some of that stormwater down Poplar Street, as opposed to going to Cypress, to going down the railroad tracks behind. So they work together, but timing wise, to get this piece done before the other piece happens, it makes sense to do it now.
The work on Second Street is already included in the Mississippi Drive project. That's not new work. That's
Yeah, I
work-
just didn't want to make sure that we weren't saying, oh, we're gonna start both of these in April of next year, and then we're taking down Fifth and Second,
No.
and now we all of a sudden.
No, that's
flooded.
why we're approaching you now for this request, is to get this construction done, the Fifth Street construction done before Christmas, hopefully. And then when we go to Second Street, Fifth Street is wide open and with no issues.
I mean, we're gonna be working quickly to try to get bids out, to try to get,
Well, if H&I is allowed to manage the project, they don't have to go through those hoops like that. That's one of the reasons we're partnering up on this, is so they're able to give the go-ahead to start construction tomorrow if council approves this action tonight.
yeah, I can see the pictures, obviously, it's imperative for us to do that, it's just.
Yeah, there's mutual benefit for the city and H&I for this project, which is why we're supporting it.
Okay.
On those, I assume you're aware of the pictures.
Yes.
How long does that water tend to stay there?
It drains out the same day, during heavy rain, but
For hours, it's an issue, probably.
yes.
But it also has potential of running into the building.
Right.
And that's the biggest concern. they
That's their
have.
concern, yes.
Came real close, right?
It's been very close before, yes.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11N, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to authorize the conversion of 8th and Cypress Streets to a permanent four-way stop. This intersection is frequently changed to a temporary four-way stop to accommodate detours for flooding, construction, and other events. The Traffic Committee feels that converting this intersection to a permanent four-way stop will alleviate confusion for local and out-of-town residents. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second.
Scott?
Yes.
Any discussion?
I'll just say I think it's a good idea because
I can definitely go in favor of that. About 2 years ago, I got hit at this intersection. It was not my fault, by the way. But I was going through the yield area, and somebody from out of town didn't see that and hit me. So I am totally in favor of that. I didn't think it's a good move.
All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11O, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a bid for the 2017 Central Business District snow removal, snow hauling. One bid was received for this project from Bayfield Snow Removal. Bayfield, who performed this work last year, has kept their prices the same. There's $40,000 budgeted for this work. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved. Second.
Bill? Second. Santos? Any discussion?
I have no problems with this, but is nobody else interested in bidding besides Bayfield? Apparently not, huh?
Apparently not. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11P, presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a professional services agreement for the Grandview Avenue Corridor Project. Grandview Avenue from Green Street to Dick Drake Way has been designated for construction by the city in fiscal year 1920. The project corridor has been through the National Environment Policy Act, NEPA, review and received a categorical exclusion. CAT X is what they call it. The next step is to award the final design contract. Staff is recommending the approval of a professional services agreement with Bolton and Mink in the amount of $1,058,951. Bolton and Mink was selected to keep consistent with the Mississippi Drive Corridor project. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second, Your Honor.
Any discussion?
Is this a percentage fee, or how is it arrived at?
Mayor, council, you said, is it a percentage fee? No, it's not a percentage fee. Because of our experience, because of the consultant's experience on Mississippi Drive, they have a good idea as to what's involved in this design and estimate the time it takes to do that and the cost that's associated with that. That's the basis. So basically it's a bottom-up estimate of what it will take to do that. I think it was also in the memo that the estimated total cost on this, as best as we can guess now, is $10 million.
So
Jim,
If,
I was just gonna ask if you could address the cost and the ability to phase the project.
yeah, and that's where I was just headed. I mean, if once Mississippi Drive is mostly complete and we have a fairly accurate picture as to how much of the jurisdictional transfer funds we have left over on that, plus the $3 million of federal money that comes in from the state transportation program. One of these tasks will be to tailor this project to those funds. We've identified it, broke it down into 3 phases or 3 pieces longitudinally from the beginning of the project to the end, and with the hope that as we do that, we can do quite a bit in one area, maybe a little bit in the middle, and perhaps even the piece that goes from Hauser clear out to Dick Drake Way, we might be able to leave it essentially the same, do some decorative landscaping in some places, some screening of things, and call it good if needed to meet that budget. So if that were the case and this project were to get pared down, the consultant wouldn't use that entire fee. But just based on what we think right now and where we're at, that's the estimated fee for it.
About 10%.
This whole thing, yes, and this whole thing has been going on and being negotiated and argued back and forth for at least, I'm going to say 2 months, because of the size of it. I mean, we didn't just exactly, no, we didn't even come close to accepting what they originally thought. There has been a lot of give and compromise in going back and forth on the scope of this and that fee.
Is there a standard architecture fee of about 7%? Or am I imagining that?
In the good old days, way back, yeah, architects had standard fees. I don't know as an engineer whether I ever got that courtesy.
Well, you got the courtesy of the Brooks bill, which is even better.
Yeah. Yes, agreed.
So,
Any other questions?
Jim, we normally bid everything else. Why do we separate this and not do that?
Professional,
It's a professional services agreement.
No, I understand that, but I
So
mean, do we ever review that and say, hey, you know, this is obviously a significant cost?
Yes.
Should we not at least entertain the potential of saying, is there other architectural companies that are available that could understand our scope, review the information, and then throw us a number back so we're not completely way off base when we come back with $1 million for an architectural estimate
No,
or number?
first of all, let me make sure that we don't insult the engineers in the audience. It's an
Okay.
engineering contract.
Okay.
No, okay.
You understand where I'm
Now,
coming from?
with that, to get to the meat of the question, when we got ready to do Mississippi Drive,
Mhm.
we went through an official request for proposal process and received proposals from
5 or 6.
I was going to say 6 or 7, but somewhere in that neighborhood of firms. And we went through a lengthy proposal evaluation process. We set up a selection committee, had the top 3 that were selected and shortlisted come in, and we went through that whole entire process. The Bolton Mink was selected as part of that process. They were given the Mississippi Drive Corridor project, and with the understanding that that was it. But because of their performance on Mississippi Drive, we don't envision that if we went through that whole entire process again, that they would be even more qualified for it. They have been through the public review process, the public information process here. They are familiar with us and with our downtown. I can't think of any reason why they wouldn't, again, be the most qualified firm for it. That's the logic behind it.
Okay, so that explains a little more from my perspective.
Yeah.
To be able to just see one number and not question it, so,
Understood.
okay, I'm good.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11Q. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a proposal for the West Side Trail Route Study. This study will provide options for a trail route that will minimize property acquisition need for the trail, minimize the work needed to get the NEPA clearances so that the project can be done under a categorical exclusion and allow for public input in the planning process. 10 proposals were received. Staff is recommending that City Council approve the proposal for the Steve Ford Martin Whitaker team in the amount of $37,500. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11R. Presented for City Council's consideration is a request to approve a grant agreement between the Iowa Department of Transportation's Department of Aviation for T-hangar building construction at the municipal airport. Staff has submitted and was awarded 2 funding requests. The first award totals $150,000 for T-hangar building construction with a local match of $22,500. The second totals $239,490 for the Phase 2 hangar expansion project. The state will fund 85% of the total project, or $203,567, with a 15% local match of $35,923. Staff is requesting that staff approve both grant agreements. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
This is about the best way the city can leverage their funds is through the airport.
And the vertical
activities,
infrastructure is new. The state used to do vertical infrastructure on a regular basis. They haven't done it for, oh, I hesitate to guess how many years it's been since they've had vertical infrastructure grants. What's that? Right, but it's been a number of years since they offered vertical infrastructure grants, so this is an opportunity, so.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11S, we have a request to approve a grant agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation for Phase 2 of the hangar expansion project at the municipal airport. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you, Phil.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11T, presented for City Council's consideration tonight, is a request to authorize the issuance of a purchase order for a lawnmower for the golf course. 6 bids were received that met the city's minimum specifications. Staff is recommending the issuance of a purchase to Van Wall Equipment in the amount of $19,900 for a used 2015 John Deere 2500 BD Greens mower. There's $40,000 budgeted for this purchase. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Phil and Scott, any discussion?
Just to make a comment that I'm glad that we're looking at used equipment, 1 or 2 years old, so kind of helps on the budget. So thank you to staff on that. Okay, thank you.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11U, we have a request to approve a change order number 3 for the landfill cell number 5 construction project. At its October 19 meeting, City Council took action to approve the purchase of a rain shed cover. This change order in the amount of $21,321 is for the work involved to install the rain shed cover. Is there a motion to approve the request as submitted?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. 11V, presented for City Council's consideration as a request to approve the Riverside Park Master Plan. Ed Freer with SEH Incorporated is present and is going to give us a presentation on the overview of the master plan. Hi.
Mayor, council, city administrator, gonna need a little help turning this on. It's on the, there we go. You've had a long night. I'll try and go through this, but if I go too quick, slow me down, and I'll just give you an overview. This is a master plan. It's not a design, so this is the initial step. I just thought I'd put this up to show where we've been. And the 2 beautiful photos above you say it even stronger for the 1870 and the 1950 panorama above us. So I got involved 15, 20 years ago, and the plan that you see at the bottom of the screen with the 2 red arrows crossing Mississippi Drive, and then the little sketch in the upper left, my personal hand, is now the River Center, which used to be the blue building that had the power squadron in it. So we've come a long way from 1870. And what we're doing today is just taking that plan and advancing it in a couple of areas with some bigger ideas, and then some smaller adjustments based on the input from the public. So we've heard a number of things. I'm not going to read all these, but everything from places to gather to integrate the farmers market, the idea of having better dockage for when the programmable barge, what does that mean? A symphony barge, a special event barge, things like that. Additional restrooms. And then some beautification things. I think what was important and why this came online was to integrate it as the improvements of Mississippi Drive take place. The other thing I want to put in a plug, I've been doing this for 45 years. The last 25 years, I've worked from the headwaters all the way down to Burlington in the upper Mississippi, as well as the Great Lakes. And the public investments have always returned 4 to 8 times of the public investment. And I think I'm very proud to be here tonight, and I'm proud of everybody that's been working with me over the years. I mean, the hotel's there for a reason. It's the riverfront and its improvements. So I walked down 2nd Street. The first time I walked down it, you had the concrete corner bunkers, the planters, and a lot of vacancies. And my hat's off to all the hard work everybody's done. And so this plan here is hopefully the next generation. Because the drawing is so small and so long, I want to go through it from east to west. So these are the 3 zones, central being the historic steamboat landing, east being the boat launch, and west being where the big lawn is down by the I still call it Hobo Plaza. Thank you, Randy Elder. So here's the overview of the plan. As you can see, a lot of the improvements that have been done over the years, the playground, the restrooms, the fountain wasn't part of the original plan. It's all happened. The dockage was improved courtesy of boating infrastructure grants, so we used a lot of public money to help improve this. We got rid of a lot of the congestion down at the steamboat and have a first-class boat launch now for fishing and recreational boating. So if we concentrate on the western piece, the big improvement piece here that's been talked about and looked at is really to take advantage, I'll call it a knoll. There's a grassy high point. So the original intent was to play to the west in terms of concerts. This becomes a festival lawn, a midway, people can folding chairs, blankets, picnic dinners, listen to music, concerts, whatever. So the idea was to take the knoll and then actually formalize it with some type of an amphitheater structure. So that amphitheater structure could be permanent, it could be a sail structure. See the black dots that align the walkway. There's a request to put more benches and possibly incorporate these I'll call them porch swings. You'll see one in the upper left and the upper right, so that they become a little arbor or pergola. People can sit there, and as Mark Twain said, the best sunrise and sunset in the country. This is a cross-section through that amphitheater. And the idea is, this is called a section, an architectural section or site cross-section. So this is not designed, but you get an idea of the mass and the size of this amphitheater structure, whether it's a tensile structure or a permanent roof. To the left, you see an area immediately in front of the stage. That would be where you could formalize the seating because of a paved area. Further to the west, you'll see less dense population of people, blankets, chairs, whatever. The unique idea here is to actually put steps on both sides so that on the east side, you'll see another series of steps that could then reuse the basketball courts for smaller events, an outdoor classroom. School kids come down for an educational session on the river, a smaller event. or a Wednesday night concert. So the building would serve two size crowds and different purposes. These are some things I've worked on. Again, like I said, they could be a tensile structure. What I mean by that is fabric. It could be permanent. It could be a standing seam roof. The one in the upper left is just being completed down in Indiana. Upper right is Marshfield, Wisconsin. Lower right is Detroit. Bottom left is Chippewa Falls. So they're from the big city to cities of 12,000, 25,000. So we migrate to the east, there's very little improvements. I think what people were saying is it's a great boat launch. We need to have some more services. So you'll see a white square between the marina and the parking lot. That's the current building that's used for maintenance and storage. The thought was to improve that to perhaps serve food and beverage. Now this is a long-term idea. Take advantage of the building that's there. Your fueling operation also takes place there. And then to the right of the boat launch, the idea is to maybe put a restroom with a fish cleaning station. And opposite the launch on the upper side, the idea of a boat wash. So as you come out of the river, you can hose down as you've trailered, clean it up, and try and minimize the transfer of undesirable things that, you know, the various aquatic life. So these are examples. The upper left is kind of a casual indoor-outdoor space, something that you could add to the current building, maybe put a small grill in there, something like that. The middle example is actually a restroom with what I call a fish cleaning station. This is on the Sheboygan River. It's a commercial grade, kitchen grade, stainless steel counter with a huge garbage disposal made by, I think it's called incinerator. Not the burning type. And you fillet your fish there, you put your bones, the tail, the head in, goes directly into the sewer, no smells. You don't have to worry about your garbage cans, the smell, and things like that. They're very cost effective and they're very safe. These are just a couple of other examples of indoor-outdoor spaces. The building in the middle is a restroom on the left. The right is, again, this fish cleaning station idea. To the right, you can see it's a stainless steel counter with water. It's industrial grade spray hose. You clean it up when you leave, and the smell and the garbage is gone. And it also, when you're out in the river all day, you need to relieve yourself. You have a men's and a women's restroom facility. Now the big focus then is on the central. And the idea here was to capitalize on all the successful things that have been finished. So the parking lot between the playground and the courts is staying the way it is. There's a suggestion that some of the parking adjacent to the central steamboat landing be modified. There's the idea of putting some more amenities towards the River Center building, possibly that triangular piece that's a brownish color. That could be a dockage for a science barge or a visiting barge. It could be additional seating on the water. And then the end of the parking lot next to the River Center could be a place for a beer garden. Then the space in between gets used for weddings and things like that. So it also allows revenue generation. The fountain in the middle and the clam digger, that all pretty much stays. There's the opportunity to improve some overlooks and fishing opportunities. To the left, you'll see that large 420-foot rectangle. That's if you were to receive interest for a river cruise. There's 3 lines on the river now. Viking Cruises they've been talking for 2 years. So if you were to become a port of call, it's a simple, what they call a Steiger dock. Then adjacent, you'll see like 6 or 7 little boats. That would be transient dockage. So I could come, dock my boat, go downtown, have lunch, have dinner in the evening, push off at night. So it wouldn't necessarily be overnight. That's what you have your marina for. Let the marina make overnight dockage fees. This would be more of a daytime use. And it all would be centered around the existing bulkhead in the existing Pearl City Center there. So here's a cross section. It's basically where the parking lot is. And this is what these things look like. They're 4 stories tall, anywhere from 250 to 400 passengers. Where you see that person walking over the water, that's what I'm referring to as a steiger dock. Then you have a simple gangway that then connects you up to another mini plaza where the flags are. People can walk downtown, or a bus picks them up and they go on a tour. These boats, they come with all their water. They're self-contained in terms of sanitary, and they're fully outfitted. They need access for emergency health reasons, or on occasion, they'll replace something that they've run out of, fresh produce. Usually it's the beer and the wine. But my point is, you don't need water lines, you don't need sewer lines. They're very self-sufficient. The area to the far right where the river center is, and I'm suggesting the possibility of a beer garden or something, these become kind of a low-cost organic development, very inexpensive to set up. The most expensive is the possibility of a permanent restroom that costs some certain monies. And of course, you'll need hookups, water, and sanitary. Right now, at least in the state that I live, beer gardens are becoming quite popular. Milwaukee County has installed 4 of them in the last couple of years. Obviously, Milwaukee's had a tradition of beer gardens on Sundays. Where I live in Madison, we've just approved one. The Milwaukee has 4 permanent, one that moves from park to park. They generate an income of $80,000 to $100,000 from Memorial Day till the end of October. So these are the kinds of revenue generation opportunities, and that money could be put back into maintaining Riverside Park. So there's a lot of things to think about. As we integrate gateways into Mississippi River Drive, and we look at some of the historic structures, this little sketch of a pylon with a light, some of these elements, vertical elements, might want to celebrate some of the historic elements that you see in the upper left. The idea of connecting and building on the trail system that you have, not just bike racks, but also a place that I could repair my bike, put air in my bike, those are all possibilities. So the last time we were working on the riverfront, we incorporated that red building that you see where the overhead lights in the parking lot are. The structure behind it is dated. It's not very attractive, and so the new building that we designed the last go-around kind of ties into the industrial buildings along Mississippi Drive. And it also, you can see the influence on the restroom building by the playground. So the purpose of this sketch is to show how we could possibly dress up or architecturally enhance the roof line and the facade of the gray structure in the back. And the sketch on the left is kind of what that could look like as an improvement on the riverside. So here's the historic steamboat landing. So most of the launch activity and the trailer parking is now on the far east near the creek. And I just want to show this. This is 4 other cities. But as you go up and down the Mississippi, the Potomac, the Ohio, the Tennessee, the Chattanooga, you'll see a lot of these communities, and I've worked on some of these, have created these public gathering places and plazas that are on the water. And I know the river fluctuates, we have flooding issues, but these designs accommodate water level changes, they accommodate flooding. So a couple of years ago I was working on a flood management plan for Burlington to bring their plaza back. I've worked in Paducah and Clarksville, 39-foot water fluctuation. Not 20, not 18, 39 feet. You can design these structures to be flooded. You can design them so they can accommodate different terraces, levels, and so you can interact at different times. You can even plant them with associated maintenance. So the idea is to look at our waterfront and create these series of scallops, the tan-colored, are a series of scallops. There's ramps to the left and the right that get you down to the water's edge. The lowest level would be just above the average seasonal level of the river. And then you could go up and down the ramps in terms of handicapped access. Some of the big events like the big ride, the RAG, There's parking adjacent to it, where the line of trees, you could have food trucks at noon, or you could have your farmer's market in that first section there. It then, these terraces are created with these little seating walls. They could be seasonally planted. If the 100-year flood goes all the way up to Mississippi Drive, this whole area just gets hosed down like you do it now. And then the plantings and things like that obviously would have to take that type of maintenance. And again, we've worked on these in other places. It's associated with living on the river. And the idea here is to create a postcard shot that says, you know, I'm from Muscatine and this is my riverfront. So here's another architectural section. You see the hotel that's going in on the far left. There's Mississippi Drive. Across the railroad tracks, those groupings of trees in the middle of the image are the middle of the parking lot. Then you have a small plaza where you see people gathered, and then hopefully you can see the terracing that would respond to different water level changes. In the background on the far right, that's the plaza or the riverwalk that you have today, where the sculpture is of the clam raker. So how would you integrate a farmer's market? So you could program it, whether it's Wednesday morning, Saturday morning, whatever, that the parking adjacent to the steamboat landing is right in the middle of the picture. You change the turnaround configuration that's in front of the Pearl City today, and you make it larger so that you see these little the little red images are trucks that are backed in. People could sell their produce from the back of the trucks. You see the little white squares along the trees. Those could be pop-up 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 market stalls. So you could quarantine or manage that area for 4 hours, 5 hours. If I were to buy some produce and have to bring it in my car, the blue line shows you how I could bring the car in, or an emergency vehicle. I could load it up at a drop-off area and then get back out to Mississippi Drive. So you'd maintain circulation to the parking lot at the basketball courts, you maintain circulation to the far east towards the river center, and you maintain circulation across the tracks. This is a close-up of that section of the scallops. You can see how they're 3-4 foot lifts, little changes. You see the sculpture in the background. And you can see how we come right down so you can experience the river, whether it's personal reasons, whether it's a classroom project, or it's some kind of a programmed event. This is what it looks like today. This is what it could like. So the tan colored are a series of cascading planters. The circular areas are a combination of wood and metal. The majority of the paving is concrete or sets. And again, the stuff is highly maintainable, washable, floodable. It gets into the final design. It's not a cakewalk. We're dealing with the modification of the shoreline. We're dealing with flood levels, so we do have to go through a regulatory review and a permitting process. These planters would be designed and detailed. One of the images that I didn't point out when I talked about other places, they could be designed in such a way as that the front of these walls could actually have curvature so that the currents would come through, minimize driftwood getting caught and things like that. So there's a lot of science and a lot of engineering that would go into the final design of this. This is a shot as we're approaching, is what it could feel like, in a late afternoon or an evening. And this is what it would feel like at night, whether you're strolling after dinner. The visitors that are coming out of the hotel could come down here, a romantic walk, or it can be a group activity. The more people we encourage to come down here, the safer it is, the less maintenance. How do you build this? Partnerships. Part of the report that we prepared starts identifying funding options and ways to partner, both with other state and federal sources. The project that we've built to date used a lot of federal money. I mentioned boating infrastructure. grant money, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, there's monies like that. There's state money, recreational money, tourism and history. Those are all public processes or programs. Quite often, these projects attract private philanthropic funding as well, especially some of the larger items. The importance of tonight is to apply for any of these public funding partnerships. We need to make sure that council or the city is behind it and endorses this master plan. Now, we're not talking final design, we're not talking final budget. It's the concept. So when you apply for these grants and public funding sources, they'll say, has it been vetted in a public process? We have. There will be other public meetings. A lot of these grants require public meetings. All the permitting and the regulatory approval will involve public meetings. So like we did the last time, it needs to be highly transparent in public engagement and decisions. But what the agencies...
Is that diagram available to council?
Yes, it's in a report that's on file.
That was in the
Yes, sir.
original report. It's also on the web, it's also in the agenda packet, and it's on the city's
And
website. And it was handed out previously as well.
Yeah, and what we've
No,
done...
that wasn't in the
It's
agenda
not in the
packet today.
agenda packet, because I.
No, no, it
Oh,
is
That
not.
was not in the agenda.
It
The
is not.
origin- the
It is
orig-
not, yeah.
This
It-
presentation is not, you'll get this tomorrow.
Yeah.
What is in the packet is the original presentation that was
Yeah,
made
saw
back in May.
And this is slightly different than that presentation, but I just want to point out that we went through a lot of trouble to identify these sources, the contact, the website, what the eligibility of these programs are, so that staff can, and whoever else is involved, can help champion and promote the incremental implementation. And that's, I don't mean to be redundant, I'm sorry if I'm taking too long here.
You're doing fine.
But you saw how long the last plan took, almost 2 decades. And I've lost jobs when I've told people they couldn't do it in 5 years. So I have 20, 30-year relationships, and I'm so happy to be here because it's like being a country doctor. You go back and you watch your kids grow up. So this will take a couple of decades. It'll take millions of dollars. But there's a lot of help out there. You need to make sure we have champions, whether it comes out of the audience, whether it comes from the mayor's office, the city administrator, DPW. That's how we get these things built. And I think there's something in it for everybody. There's some things that can happen organically. You know, this fish cleaning, the food and beverage, the beer garden. Those are pretty simple things that don't take a lot of. The big ticket items are the amphitheater and the landing. But again, it's projects that attract stronger interest sometime, and all of a sudden you'd be surprised. I was just amazed. I did this 9-block pedestrian mall in Madison. I drew a diagram in 1996, and we thought the university was going to build it. Well, all these new apartments and dormitories and healthcare facilities went, guess what? The 9 blocks start from the private end, not from the public end. So I've given up trying to forecast. Any questions or answers? This is the last slide, and more than happy to clarify anything.
I have one, please, in an almost jocular manner. The amphitheater, those are my constituents up on the bluff on West Hill, and after the first concert, they're gonna call me, and I wanna be able to give them your home number.
Understood, understood.
Is there any way you can point it, blast that noise out over the river?
There is. I think you manage the time, the expectations. I hope you wouldn't have 2,500, 3,000 people every night. I think you might have 1 or 2 big events a year. It's like, do we turn the fireworks off every 4th of July? No. We deal with the noise a couple of times a year. I'm hoping that some of these could be a solo guitar, open mic. It could be a 5-time symphony series. It's up to you. I mean, you can manage this. You can say lights out at 10 o'clock. It's the soft stuff that makes it successful. But to do that, you need the structure. And it's not always about concerts. Like I was trying to explain, that the backside of it could be used for educational, smaller events. It's, the big lawn is half a dozen times a year, maybe 4, I don't know. These things are expensive to run, these big events.
And we have a noise ordinance, not because of activities on the riverfront. It was because of certain activities at a bar, and they weren't cooperating well.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping these will help you continue to develop traditions that are loved and that are part of the community's culture. The intent is not to create a nuisance.
Yeah, be nice to share the noise with Illinois.
There you go.
Music, Mike, music,
music.
not noise.
No, the plugs in, it's not music.
Anything else I can help?
I really applaud you. I think it's a fantastic view. I mean, it's a great plan to look at it. I know you guys did a lot of work, and Randy working with you, but just from viewing it, it's just exciting to see so many different potentials that we could have. And seeing 32 of those, you know, if we could even have half of those, it'd be fantastic. I mean, like you said, it may take years to do, but having a vision and at least a goal to see it, I mean, it kind of helps put it into perspective to know what we're going to.
Thank you. And a goal here was to create maximum flexibility in how you use it. And it's going to change from generation to generation. So I have a simple rule of success of my projects. In the old days, you used to go to the drugstore and you'd buy a 5-cent postcard. And what was on that postcard? That's what I envision here. That's my success meter. The other way of measuring a successful project is where do you bring the out-of-towners and take the wedding photos? So that's what I wish for you.
Thank you so much, Ed.
You probably
We
remember
appreciate it.
when there was a railroad switchyard down there.
Right there, yeah.
Were you involved at all with Dubuque's riverfront?
Some of it.
Some of it?
Some of it in Davenport, La Crosse, Red Wing, Burlington, where else am I going? Onalaska, the headwaters of the Mississippi, St. Paul. Been to almost every one. I'm a river rat.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the request to approve the Riverside Park Master Plan, the concept. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The request is approved with all ayes. Moving on down to the rest of the agenda, number 14, communication from council members. Councilman Harvey, do you have anything tonight?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Natvig?
Just remind everyone, there's a municipal election next Tuesday. Probably don't need reminding. And hope they exercise their right to vote.
Councilman Raywald?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilman Saucedo?
I have a statement that I would like to read in regards from Councilmember Tom Spread that asked me to do this and read in his absence. It's this Tuesday is Election Day. We have the opportunity to restore civility to local politics with the election, but that can only be accomplished with people that use their fundamental right to use the citizen to vote and to vote. Participate in the decision-making progress, do your due diligence, educate yourself, cast your ballot out next Tuesday, vote your conscience. It is important that the future of this great city be that every eligible voter in the city of Muscatine participate. Your vote is your voice. Vote November 7th. And obviously, I do not presume and act as your agent. I do not give permission to act as my agent. This is from Tom. From my point, I just would like to make sure that we continue to move forward. So as of this next Tuesday, I hope that everyone does get out and vote for the best candidate in every ward, and for the mayor as well too, as I have exercised my right to vote as well too. That's all I have.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Staff?
2 quick items, Your Honor. I just would like to clarify that there was no raid made at the towers. The police department did, however, enforce a no trespass order. The second item, I have a copy from Councilmember Tom Spread. I have a copy of the statement that was made and a second written statement that he asked that I hand out for the record tonight as well. And that's all, Your Honor.
Your Honor,
Yes,
I would just like to apologize for this agenda.
it's fine, Fran.
It's been a terrible week.
We understand.
One's for you.
And I just would like to commend the police department. I know on Halloween, a lot of the officers were going around and doing wonderful things with the children and stopping them and giving them candy and having an opportunity to build relationships with them and handing out glow necklaces so they were lit up as they were walking along trick-or-treating. It was very nice to see them working with the people and interacting. Thank you, Brett. That's it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
I think there's two separate things.
Okay. That must be the first thing.